As always, we want to begin all things by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we're on, as well as our ancestors and those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We want to acknowledge our elders and all community stewards whose shoulders that we continue to stand on as we build and share and learn for our collective liberation. So can you start off by introducing yourself to our viewers and listeners?
Hi, everyone. My name is Clavia Alleyne. I'm the co-founder and vice president of the Black Business Association of BC. And what we do, our job is just to help Black entrepreneurs to develop and to expand their businesses and hopefully connect with other Black entrepreneurs across the diaspora and, bring that wealth and value and our skill set back to the motherland, and that's one of the dreams that we have as an association.
That's great. Can you tell me about the origin of the Black Business Association of BC and how you're disrupting multiple ecosystems in Canada?
Okay, so the association started out of, I guess, a need. I think I'd say around maybe 2019, COVID hit, we were kind of feeling the impact. We were forced to kind of pivot with our own businesses, and we realized that there was kind of a definite gap in terms of training or support for entrepreneurs in BC. And I know when we started as entrepreneurs, probably over a decade or more ago, we realized the distinct lack of those supports, but, we pushed through and we kind of made some sort of success with our businesses. But coming through COVID, the impact that COVID had on so many small businesses was devastating. And we realized there still wasn't any supports, and we really needed to make a decision. We could help, we could try to become part of the solution. And that's what really kind of made us hone in on becoming a business-focused organization as opposed to a cultural organization, because we felt like economics, growth in the economy and economic growth was the only way really for our community to kind of get out of a lot of the issues and challenges that we were facing. And I think around that time, it's probably George Floyd. George Floyd was another kind of, I guess, fuel to the fire, because we realized the need. And then that kind of added that, that we have to do something. I don't know what we're going to do, but we have to do something like definite. Another generation, we shouldn't let another generation go without us as a community, as a people coming together and doing something definitive. And if you talk to Narissa, she'll tell you, I'm not the guy to do a lot of talking. I don't like to do too many discussions because I know we do a lot of them and we've been doing them for years. I'm not trying to sound like, negative on that, but I feel like that's why we were so focused on business, because business is about action. It's about planning. It's about efficiency, like definitive, hardcore, solid concepts. And we felt like that was the way forward for our community. And that was the way forward for businesses and Canada. For the economy. Small businesses are like probably the largest contributor to the Canadian economy. So from that standpoint as well, we felt like we definitely have to do something.
Absolutely. It's necessary. And like you said, it's a series of events that sort of triggers the movement, but we appreciate you for taking up the mantle. Can you let us know what your mission and vision is for the BBABC?
Well, I think I would say we have some primary vision, like goals, which is in terms of expanding the capacity of the Black ecosystem, both here in BC and Canada, and then connecting that with other thriving Black ecosystems in the diaspora, whether it's the UK, whether it's the Caribbean, whether it's the motherland, right? That's kind of the universal goal. To do that, we have to develop each hub individually on a per case basis, but that would be that integration using technology, using innovation, because we have those tools at our disposal, and they're going to be critical to the success of the movement and what we're trying to do. We have ways that we can do trade and we can do business across continents, across the world. So we want to harness all of these facets, put them together and unite all of the different hubs and have them trading, doing business, networking together as one kind of, for lack of a better term, I like to call it Blamazon. And that's where we do business, right? And that's kind of where we're looking for globally, as well as if you go to BC and you hone in on our local area, we want to try to build a foundation for our Black entrepreneurs. And that in terms can be interpreted in terms of education, We have a lot of training courses, support courses for entrepreneurs. It can be in terms of business supports. There's so many different ways, but all in all, it just points towards building the entrepreneurs' skill sets and one at a time. Because when you build them one at a time, you build the foundation blocks for a more successful business community. And if you can kind of, I guess, prove the success of the model here in BC and in Canada, then that bodes well for taking that model and expanding it to the different hub networks, whether the UK, whether the Caribbean, or whether the continent. And you know, that kind of integration in business and culture is basically what we're focused on at the BBABC. Sorry, I forgot this. This is a critical part for me as well. The youth. We have to bring our youth into the picture. And I know a lot of times in our community, they're family businesses. So a lot of times the youth are brought into the business, whether willingly or not, right? But I think like the youth and the education of the youth in terms of entrepreneurial skill sets and business acumen skills, that's another key point in terms of what we're trying to do as an association, because we're not going to do anything without the continuity of having the young people on board, having access to their creative energy, having access to their enthusiasm, you know, because they see what's going on. They live with us. They're involved. They see the challenges we face. You know, they're involved in the process. And I feel like bringing them in from as early as we can and getting them to be committed to the solution and being involved in the solution, I think only bodes well and can only mean like more thriving and more success for our businesses and our community in general. And that's really my passion. Because there's nothing that we're going to do, as far as I can see, there's nothing that we're going to do in our generation that we will complete as far as the goals that we have. And I'm not trying to be a naysayer. I'm just trying to be as realistic as possible. And, you know, we're trying to solve generational problems for 400 years plus. And so we need to have generational solutions, basically is what I'm saying. And that's part of the legacy aspect of what we do at the BBABC. We have to bring the youth in, we have to train them, we have to upgrade their skills, teach them the confidence. You know, we have to train the lions to lead the pack. And that's basically what we're trying to do as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's important, like you said, we have to know that the work that we're doing will have to live on beyond what we can do. But it's a matter of getting it started. And like you said, including the youth. I think that's really important that we involve the youth and they understand so that they don't have to go through and make the same mistakes and challenges that we've dealt with. Speaking of challenges, what challenges or barriers are you dealing with right now in the work that you do, and how's your team working to overcome them?
Challenges, that list. I mean, that's a pretty long list, but I guess I could hone in on a few big ones as far as from an organizational perspective. I would say number one for nonprofits is always funding. We're going to have this conversation in circles across the world. Funding is usually one of the big challenges. As far as a solution to funding, I think we need to overhaul our approach to nonprofit associations as a community. I think that we need to start thinking in terms of sustainability and not I don't know what the phrase would be, grant application funding or grant application, those kind of supports from external. I think when we have to start maybe thinking, when we form nonprofits or community-based nonprofits with the goal of being a community support mechanism, I think we have to understand that we must build into this model a sustainability model. We have to have a sustainability plan built into the model, because too often I've seen, and especially since we've started the BBABC, I've seen organizations struggling to maintain, to do what they're doing, their operations, because they were reliant on getting external funding. And while we were lucky to be funded under a federal government program, which helped us to do a lot of our stuff, we realized that funding is finite and that sooner or later it's going to run out. And we've put so many supports in place, it would be a shame, to lose that kind of momentum. And so from the beginning, we've been focused on developing a sustainability plan to make sure that we can continue to do the work in the community without help from external funding. And that's the biggest challenge, I would say, to be sustainable. Right. And I think as we learn more about the nonprofit arena and we network with other partners and form alliances, I think we also have other ventures in place. I mean, we could talk about some of our programs that we have for sustainability, but again, that's one of the challenges that we have. Another, I guess, challenge that we have is a lot of times there's a bit of what the word I would use, isolation. So a lot of times we feel like we're working in isolation. And this is a more personal thing from my end, because our organization in relative terms is fairly new. We're about 3-4 years old. So that's a relatively new organization. But we've done a lot of work, and I've been networking for the past 4 years. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned in the last 4 years of networking and doing this work is that you are not alone. There are soldiers fighting the fight all over the world. And that was probably one of the most relieving and uplifting things about doing this work, because the task that we're dealing with, it can become overwhelming, and it can become, do I really want to keep doing this? But when we went around and we did tours, we went to conferences in the States and Baltimore and other places, we realized that there were people just like us who had the same challenges that we had, who were trying to run nonprofit organizations, trying to give back to the community, just trying to help in whatever way they can. And I realized there were so many of them. And that was kind of a blessing to me. It made me feel like we're doing the right thing. We're in the right space, and and we should just continue to do what we're doing. So I guess to put that in perspective, communication and awareness among organizations in terms of what we're doing. I don't know whether we need to standardize some kind of media house. I don't know whether that might be, we have to channel them through a source that distributes it to all of us so we all get the message. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of times, a lot of the work that valuable institutions or organizations are doing gets lost in the media. And I don't hear about them till maybe years later. And I found out about some of the great work that they're doing. And I feel like for our community, especially, we're a pretty small community. And I think we can do a little bit better in terms of bringing awareness to what we're doing within the community, business-wise and culturally. So that would be another challenge, getting the awareness out there. But we have technology, and we have the willingness, and we have the support of the greater community. So I think that one we can deal with pretty easily.
Right. Yeah, definitely necessary. Always important to bring the community together and amplify the voices of one another on the work that we're doing. Can you explain how important entrepreneurship innovation is to the work that you do?
Okay, so innovation, I prepared a nice little spiel for this, but let's just talk. Innovation, I think of technology. That's the first term that comes to my head when you talk about innovation. But another term that comes to my mind in association with innovation, and I think this is more applicable to our community, is ingenuity. And I feel like that's something that we're blessed with as a people. We're very ingenious. And the reason I think that ingenuity is so powerful is because we usually have challenges. We're usually starting from nothing, and we have to create something. And so we have always been a creative people. We've always had that creative inspiration. So then when you take technology, which gives you capacity, which gives you the ability to connect, to do different things, and then you add the ingenuity of our people, of our young people, especially the youth, because like I said, they see the problems, they know the challenges, they're aware. We combine the platform, the technological platform, with our ingenuity and our creativity, and that's how we create the landscape, the ecosystem for all of our businesses to thrive. All right, and we can't separate them. I think and that's why the youth become so important, because they have the handle, they have the grasp on the technology that we try to maintain some kind of functionality, but we don't have the grasp where we can be creative with it and mold it to what we're trying to do. And ingenuity coupled with innovation, I think, equals progress for what we're trying to do in our community.
Absolutely. Can you share a bit of your vision for the Afro World Expo?
Afro World Expo, I think the goal for Afro World Expo was primarily to provide a platform for our entrepreneurs to expand their market access, one, and also possibly expand their market capacity. Networking is always part of everything we do, because we need to find each other, or we need to know where everyone is so we can work together. But Afro World was a place where we could bring vendors, and they could showcase their products and sell them to the broader community. They could also find other vendors from within that network and connect, and possibly even find, like, maybe even a supplier. Your next supplier could have been found from your networking at our event. And so, I guess what we would call the perks of having an event like Afro World is that we see each other. That improves our visibility. The community comes and sees us. We also trade with each other. We work, other businesses find suppliers, they network, We also have invited like business partners, community partners. There were some people that came that have larger organizations, like from some of the larger retail organizations and business houses. They came and they were looking to see perhaps if there was a client that they could procure some of their stuff from. There's also procurement government agencies that came. They were looking for vendors that they could, I guess, have procurement arrangements with. So at the end of the day, Afro World is a place where our vendors and people that are committed can come and find new avenues, income streams, find new ways for them to expand their business. And we've tried to provide those opportunities as far as for our businesses to tap into areas where we haven't historically been, I guess, too involved in. One thing that comes to mind right off the bat is the procurement area. We're into government procurement. We're trying to do these B2G contracts. After speaking with some people at Pacific Assistance Canada, I don't think they have a specific number as far as the percentage of our community businesses that are involved in government procurement, either federally or municipally or provincially. I don't think is a very large number, and that's the billions of dollars in income every year. And so that was one of the big areas that we're focused on, because we realize it's $1 billion industry and $1 billion market, and our community don't really have any access to it or haven't historically been accessing that. And so trying to provide, Afro World provides these kind of opportunities. They're like new platforms for us to look into, to investigate, to get a hold on new income streams. We're not only trying to enhance and to build a capacity for the usual income streams, B2B, B2G, not B2B, B2C, those kinds of normal business channels, but we're looking into new areas, B2G. And also looking at the procurement and G2G perhaps, or, like whatever way we can connect the diaspora to the diaspora at whatever level. And then we can see from following a lot of events on the continent, they are trying to also make the diaspora, to make African more accessible to the diaspora as far as business and making connections, being able to travel to and forth. And so it's telling me now, these are the times the market is opening, and we have the technology, we have the communication access, we have the knowledge. And if we don't have the knowledge, it takes a mild bit of training to bring people up to speed to be able to communicate and do e-commerce. And so with the opening of the African market, with the communication technology that we have, this is the prime time for us in the Black ecosystem, in the Black commercial business ecosystem, to link with each other and do business, and trade and I guess economically grow. And it's one of the most promising times I've seen for business development between Black community groups and Black businesses, entrepreneurs in my life right now.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying in the last interview, was that the timing is right now, right? It's such a pressing time right now for all the work that we're doing. So what inspires you most about your current work at the BBABC?
I'd say the change since I really started, like when we really started forming the association and getting going, seeing the change in the consciousness of our people. And I'm I'd say I'm a fairly skeptical person. And I try to make sure that what I'm seeing is definitely what I'm seeing. And it's not like a fad, but I genuinely think, and for those of you watching, and I hope you're listening, I genuinely think that we have kind of turned the page or turned the corner in realizing that we need to work together as a diaspora across the world. And I think we genuinely kind of got it now. And then we're now starting to make those forays. We're now starting to make those network connections, and we're slowly getting into it, but I see it. And I see it not just in community in terms of the communication between expats going home, and, we're seeing the movement of people, but I'm also seeing the movement of goods and the trade. I'm doing more business with African partners directly, so I see the shift. And I think that's one of the most inspiring things, to be alive in that time. Because I can think of times my grandmother working on like plantation land in Barbados, outside for less than minimum wage. I can think of those days when I was a youngster, to the time now I'm seeing people doing business with other countries across the internet, and and all these opportunities that are available to young Black entrepreneurs that we wouldn't have dreamt of back in our day. So those things, that these times are so encouraging, they're so optimistic, but I don't want us to miss this opportunity and then lose another generation. So, I temper that enthusiasm with to make sure we put the right things in place. And so that brings me to my next point, the youth. That's kind of where I'm at with what we do at the BBABC. I think it's critical, if not the deal breaker to what we do at the BBABC. We have to encourage and involve our youth in the entire process. If we don't do that, there's going to be a reset, and a lot of people are going to be starting over, trying to reinvent the wheel. And I don't think we have the luxury right now at this stage in our history to do that. And so that's why I'm so passionate about working with the youth. Like everything I do is to provide them with the tools to be even more savvy with business and entrepreneurship and financial literacy. All of these things that are kind of, I guess, prevalent in our community, both business-wise and socially. We want to work on these things so that by the time the kids graduate high school, they're pretty much a primed, ready, educated, motivated, and community orientated, I guess, business entrepreneur. And one of the things that we try to do in our programs is to make them socially conscious. In terms of some of the projects I'm envisioning for their program involves trying to solve problems that are directly related to their community issues. What do you see in our community that needs to be fixed? How can you use your young creative energy and your talents to help us come up with a solution? And then, we work on it together, we design it, we develop it, and then we implement it. And that shows the young people that their opinion counts, that they matter, and that they have a voice. And I think we have to empower them in those ways, because when they have that power, they can continue the journey that our ancestors started. And that's one of the other main things about what we do at the BBABC. It's about the youth, and that's it for me, the young people. Definitely.
I can definitely tell you're very passionate about the youth, so I'm glad to see that come through. Do you have a key set of priorities in your work right now that you haven't touched on yet?
I think pretty much touched on most of it. The priority is going to be the same for most organizations. It's sustainability. So that's always a challenge, looking for the next income stream. We're trying to make sure that we're going into a profitable state so we can maintain all of the services, because at the end of the day, those services need to be, we need to have the membership access them, and they need to be available. So I think that would be one of the main priorities. And besides sustainability, that would have a direct tie-in with education. We have to build I guess, a rounded entrepreneur. We don't just want to tell people, oh, be an entrepreneur, but there's a specific set of skills that you need to have kind of mastered. I don't want to say master, but you need to have pretty much a handle on to be a successful entrepreneur. And we want to make sure that throughout the youth and the youth programs and other training and educational supports that we have, that we can teach entrepreneurs to have a handle on their business, because that empowers them to make, I guess, informed and powerful business decisions. Being good with, and this is also feedback that we've gotten from our financial partners, people that are working with us to try to even help our community members and our entrepreneurs get funding. They notice there's some, I guess, I won't say significant, but there's some noticeable areas where our business entrepreneurs usually need assistance in. And that would be areas like bookkeeping, like financial management, certain things like that add to the operational efficiency and to the operational capacity of the business. A lot of our entrepreneurs are solo entrepreneurs or smaller businesses, so they're usually freestyling it, fly by their seat of your pants kind of thing, and especially during the COVID times. So I know a lot of us have been just making it day to day, but as far as being able to be operationally efficient and to have your capacity kind of, outlined and organized, having that organizational framework, it takes a little bit of work and a little bit of education. And we provide some of those courses, because an educated entrepreneur is going to be a successful entrepreneur. And then when you connect them using the internet and using technology, then we have a very powerful business community, one that can change history and one that can change our destiny. And that's
Absolutely. What we. Speaking of our destiny, how do you feel about the future of entrepreneurship in Canada?
I'm optimistic, so long as, and I will caution it with this, I'm optimistic so long as we can see a better, I guess, communication between the different hubs in Canada. I see it a lot in Canadian, I guess, businesses. There's a West Coast, BC, and then there's the East Coast. And in Toronto and in some of the larger metropolitan areas on that side, they have a very thriving kind of ecosystem as far as our community. On the West Coast, we're growing. It's a growing community. And I think the future of entrepreneurship, as far as our community specifically, we need to connect those hubs, right? More. I know they're connected on some part. There's some kind of trade going back and forth, but we need to kind of prioritize that in terms of what we do as entrepreneurs, so we can link with each other. And that's one of the reasons we created Black Biz Global, was to be able for us to be able to find each other. So it's an online directory. You can find another Black entrepreneur businesses. They're sorted by industry, et cetera, et cetera. It's a directory, but we also offer online stores in this directory. And the aim of that is to, if you're looking for a particular supplier or service or product, you can go on there and find someone. Maybe they're local, or maybe they're in another part of the country, but you will be able to find someone in our community to provide that service. And I feel like the more we can create that loop where the money stays in the community and it circulates, the more often we can do that via the networking and and that kind of thing on the platforms that we provide. I feel like that is the future of entrepreneurship in Canada, being able to connect the different hubs and then being able to work together.
That's it. So moving along, I know that you talked about a bit about the vision and the mission and what you guys are working on, but what is the ultimate goal of the BBABC? What does success look like for you and your colleagues?
I guess that's fairly subjective, but I guess for me personally, success for me would look like I'm walking down the street. I just left the supermarket, and one of my brothers or my sisters comes up to me and said, "Thanks, brethren. My son just graduated university or college, or he just took over the business from me. He has an MBA, and it was all because of the courses that I took with your organization and the supports that you gave me with the bookkeeping. You helped me to get my stuff in line, and then I was able to get that loan, which was then able to help me expand my business, and then I was able to better take care of my family." And then to see the fruits of that in terms of empowering his children and the next generation. So for me, my reward is seeing people come up to me and say, "Respect, brethren, you helped me a lot." And it meant something. That's where I get my satisfaction from. And seeing the kids when they light up, when they realize something and it clicks. Do you know what I mean? Seeing them get all excited and then run around trying to show everybody that something clicked to them, that gives me satisfaction to know that I'm doing the right thing in this time. And I guess further to that would be seeing how all of these pieces come together in the future. Seeing how we all communicate and connect and network and do business and thrive together as a community. And like I said before, I see that consciousness spreading. And it's a pleasure to see it grow, and it's a pleasure to see it develop. And I hope that's what success means to me, is to see all of these different facets come together and to see the results, validated in the new generation with their goals and their aspirations being aligned. That would be what my definition of success and accomplishment for what we're trying to achieve.
Well, it definitely feels like we have a brighter future, knowing how much you guys are focused on the next generation and pouring into the youth. So I think you're such an inspiration to the youth and that next generation. So they are in good hands. Do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our community?
I have for a call to action, I have my line. Everybody knows this is my line. My line is simple. This is an all hands on deck situation. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not any more complicated than that. It's all hands on deck. This is the time. We are the people. We are the instrument, and we will be the ones to change the future for our generation. We cannot look to depend on anybody else externally outside of the community. We can have allies, we can have friends, supporters, of course, we can have all of that. But as far as creating the solution and building the future for our children and our community, our people, this generation is in the now, are the ones that are supposed to do it. There's no more time to wait, to talk, you know what I mean? It's action time. It's all hands on deck. Whether that means it can be as simple as supporting the next Black business around the corner. It could be as simple as referring your brethren who has a service to another brethren who, who requires that service. It's about the connection and keeping the money in the community. Those are the calls to action. The longer we can keep the money in our community and keep it circulating, then the better it bodes for the future of our children. And that's as simple as it goes. All hands on deck. We contribute to each other and we support each other in any which way we can. And everything else will kind of, fall into place if we can just keep that consistent. That would really be what I'm about right now.
Absolutely. No more bystander syndrome. No
No.
more assuming somebody else is going to do something. All hands on deck. I love that. That's the
Everybody.
perfect call to action.
It is. Even the kids, everybody. I'm so serious. Everybody and their grandmother. We coming.
I love
you have
it.
to have that energy, because I think if we keep that energy, it changes things. Look at our history. When we get that energy, things change. And we're getting there. I can see it and I can feel it. And I'm really optimistic. And we have groups like you guys. We have Setsi. There's so many other groups all over the world. And in Canada, especially, they're doing stuff. And the diaspora is coming together. And we have technology to help us do that. So I guess it's almost ours to lose this battle. In a weird way. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like we have everything we need. And not everything, but we have most of the things we need to get it done in this generation. Or at least to grow.
Very resourceful.
Yes.
And I think with, organizations like yours that focuses on the youth and the next generation, with all the momentum that we have right now in, the growing ecosystem, like you said, there's just so much to be done. But if all hands are on deck, we can have massive impact and then hand on a little less work to the next generation. So I think that is the biggest, takeaway from your passion and talking about the youth, the next generation, and, doing this legendary work. So I really, really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview and share with us today. Thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun
we
to be able to talk. No, go ahead.
So there's a little bit of a delay. I just wanted to say that we wanted to close the way that we began the interview by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we are on, as well as our ancestors and those who toiled without compassion or compensation, as well as acknowledging our elders and community stewards whose shoulders we continue to stand on as we share, learn, and build together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So I just wanted to take the time again to thank you for your continued leadership and the work that you do pouring into our youth. And again, thank you for taking the time to be with us here today.
Thank you for having me. And I hope that everybody gets the message. I know we are getting the message and I can see the results, and we just keep on growing and keep progressing. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.